Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you all. I'm Dave, and this is my garage. We're not working on that. We're not working on that. We're working on that bad boy. So I'm going to go ahead and get these. I got about 2,000 miles. The back tire's still got a little bit of tread left. Actually, I mean, I could get another ride or two in the mountains, but I am getting up onto somewhere on the tire. I was getting onto the wear bars. So I'm just like, you know what? I got a little tread left, but I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and replace them. So what do you need? Well, you need stands, right? You got to take the wheels off. So get your rear stand, get the tire up in that. Use your little pit bull buddy, that's that little scissor jack that goes under the wheels, so when you pull the axle out, the wheel doesn't fall down. And then you're going to need a front stand. Now you can use one of two types. You can use the pin style. Pitbull makes one. Cycle Gear doesn't sell Pitbull, so I just went and grabbed this one. I think it's made by Trackside or something. It does take Pitbull pins. You will need a 15 mil to go up under the triple tree. So you'll need that. You'll need one of these little jobbers to loosen the axle. It's got all different sizes, so you buy one of those tools. I think Motion Pro or one of those makes them. You can find them on Amazon. But you got 17, 22, 24, and 19. So that will be able to loosen that axle. There are two pinch bolts that you will need an Allen wrench for the bottom. So go ahead and loosen both of those. You can see them under there, so that they both spin freely. On this particular bike, there's nothing on the other end. The axle threads into the bottom of the fork. And then you're going to need, for the brake calipers, you will need an 8 millimeter. That's going to get everything off for the front. So first you loosen those, then we're going to take off the brake calipers, and then pull those off, let them just kind of hang there out of the way. Then the axle comes out and everything will slide out. Careful not to drop your spacers. When we go to put the wheel in later, remember on this bike, look for the ABS ring. That's on the left-hand side. And then for the back, very simple. You're going to need a breaker bar and a 27, I think that's a 27 millimeter. Yep, 27 millimeter. Loosen it, pull the axle out. The brake caliper is on this side, it is underneath, so that'll largely stay on there, and then you just kind of roll the wheel out. And that's, again, why it's really nice to have that little tool, so that the wheel doesn't drop and then bang the caliper, into the paint or any of that kind of stuff. So we'll set up the little tripod here. Get yourself a zesty beverage. And let's get to work. So I want to make sure that this is kind of loosened. These bolts aren't torqued very much. When you retorque them, it's only like 18 to 20 foot-pounds. It's not a lot. Just break the... This tool is so handy. Get one of these. Ratchet. Alright. I just leave the screws in gently so you don't bang the back of this against the paint. Gonna wiggle it out. I need to move the wheel because my valve stem was right there. And then you just kind of do that. Take that one out. Do the same on the other side. Okay, put them behind the tire like so. And now, once you've loosened that with the ratchet, now tell you, having the right tools and the right stands really does make this very simple. So what you want to do is make sure the spacers should be identical. So you've got your spacers here. I leave them on just in case they need them, but be careful you don't lose them. Don't leave them at wherever you're getting your tires replaced. They should be the same on both sides. Let me pop one out, let's look. Yeah, exactly the same size. So you don't have to worry about getting them backwards. All right, let's put that wheel aside. Now, let's go out to the back. Okay. Put those on the ground exactly the way they're going to want to go back on. So notice how they come off. Now we're going to pop out the axle. Which again, axle out. But because of that little thing down there, it really doesn't make a mess. Like it doesn't want to drop. Unhook your chain. And then you carefully slide it out. And when we put it back, we're just going to wiggle it past the caliper. See how the caliper kind of stays on? Everything stays where it needs to be. When this slides back in, we're just going to have to hook it a little bit to get that wheel past the caliper, and then when we straighten this out, that disc is going to slide right into that caliper. I might loosen it a little bit with a pair of, with a screwdriver, just get a little gap, give myself a little wiggle room. But that's it. The wheels are off. So we're going to go ahead and throw these in the car, take them over to Cycle Gear, and then we'll be back to reinstall and check them out. And we are back. Here we are, back in Dave's garage. So, we've got new tires. What we got? Michelin Pilot Road 6s, or I think now they just dropped the Pilot and they're just calling them Road 6s. They feel sticky AF. These are really good tires. I mean, they'll handle anything from rain. Look at the size of the siping and stuff. They're great in the rain, great in the dry. I had Road 5s and did track days on them. They're a phenomenal tire. That was on a Z900, but my buddy Wesley, who runs Advanced, and he's one of the dudes that does one of the control riders for N2, he had them on his MT10, and he was out there running them on Road Atlanta, on Road 5s. They're a brilliant tire. Everyone thinks you got to have like the sticky, the Q3 or Q3 Plus, Q4s. I mean, they give you a little extra grip, but they're not as good in the dry. But for general use, like if I wasn't going to do a track day here or there, I probably would have, and if they'd had them in stock, I would have thrown the Road 6s on that. I like them that much. So I'll use the Q3 Pluses on the Cowie for now. But I'm going to these, and I expect to get, on a bike with this horsepower, 93-ish, 4-ish at the wheel, I should get 8,000 miles out of this, of aggressive riding. So anyway, now we got to do everything we did before, but in reverse. So let's go ahead and get this installed, go over everything. We'll do the front, and then let's see. I'm going to take a rag, not that kind of rag. It's not that time of the month. Or is it? God damn it. Let's get that. And get some brake cleaner. Brake parts cleaner. That'll do. So when we're done, we're going to wipe down the rotors. And I'm not going to spray the tire. But like when they put the tires on, they have that goop that goes in. Now it dries and it leaves a film. It's not slick. But when it comes to breaking in tires, you don't have to break in tires like you used to. It used to be because they had a release agent in the mold so that the rubber wouldn't stick to the mold. They haven't used those in 15 plus years. So these tires are pretty much ready to go out of the box. Now, that doesn't mean you should get on a brand new tire and go 100% into the first turn. Don't be an idiot, you're on cold tires. But basically you can break these in by turning left and then turning right. I, however, like to just, so whether you have rubbing alcohol, whether you just put a little bit of brake clean on the rag, like I said, don't spray the tire, just spray the rag, and once the wheel's up in here, we're just gonna let it spin, and I'm just gonna give a wipe down to the tire. So if anybody ever spilled some oil, there's any of that goop or anything like that, we're just gonna take that off, make sure that there's nothing on there. So we'll do the same to the front with the rotors, to again, make sure nobody touched anything or got any kind of crud on there. All right. So this, you're going to hold the brake caliper in place, kind of pull it out of the way, and this goes up and into here. I mean, seriously, how friggin' easy is that? It's amazing. So we'll get our chain on. Alright, chain's on. Now, I did get a bunch of grease on my hand, so I'm being very careful not to touch the tire. Alright, so that goes in there. And you can see how basically this is all going to line up. I mean, seriously, that little pit crew buddy thing makes this job so easy. To just roll it in, hook on your chain, and you're back in business. It's amazing. I can't stress that enough, how easy this makes this job. So, because I'm going to use this rag on the tires, I'm going to go get some paper towels and wipe the grease, chain grease off my hand. Now, people have asked in the videos before, like, what's the torque setting for this? I don't know off the top of my head. This is one of those things where if you have a torque wrench and you haven't done this a lot, use the torque wrench. Find out it's 120 foot-pounds or whatever and put that in. I know just from doing this, I can't even count how many 500, 600, 700 times between loosening chains, doing sprockets, wheel changes, tire changes, all that kind of stuff. After a while, I mean, I know what it took to get off, and so I basically put that same amount of torque. I'm within 5 or 10 foot-pounds. If you want to be anal retentive and go over everything with a torque wrench to get it just right, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying don't do that. For me, I've always been able to ballpark it, because I have checked it before to say, hey, was that enough? And I go in, and if it called for like 120 foot-pounds, I had it at 127 or 113, you know what I mean? It was close enough where it will not make a difference. Now, if we're doing cylinder head bolts and things like that, yes, there are critical bolts that you absolutely use a torque wrench. And not that the axle's not critical. It's got a lock washer type thing in there. It's not going to come off on its own. So we're just going to spray some of that onto the rag. And that's it. That tire is sticky. That's going to be a great tire, man. Looks a little narrower than the other one, but I love the angle. That turn-in is going to be wonderful. So now we're going to move up to the front and do a similar operation. And we're also going to do the whatchamacallit, we're also going to do the brake calipers. So on this bike, ring sensors on that side. Make sure your spacers are in. Lift it up and in. All right, now this one, same thing. This one actually wasn't torqued a crazy lot. So what we're going to do is tighten this down, get it to basically where it was. I may check stuff afterwards, but I don't want to slow it down for this because I have to go look up what the torque specs are. But get that tight, and then this one can't loosen up anyway because you got these pinch bolts. These only go to like 12, I think it's 12 foot-pounds. It's not a lot. You don't want to over-tighten these. Get them just one little, perfect. Now, turn this inside out. Hit it with another round of brake cleaner. Now I'm doing this before I put it in the caliper. So the first thing I'll do is all right. And now we'll do the tire. Okay. You feel awesome. Now let's get our calipers back in. Start threading these by hand if you're using the power ratchet. You don't want to strip anything, so get it in 3, 4, 5 turns at least to make sure it's spinning freely and there's no binding and you haven't cross-threaded it. Okay, so now what I do is don't tighten them like it is. Get them up to where they're almost snug, okay? On both sides. Alright, so you get them to where they're almost. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pump the front brake. Get those pads pushed back in. But also, see, there's always like a couple thousandths of an inch, you know, the calipers could be moved either way. So I'll usually pump the brakes up and then finish tightening them with it pumped up. So here, you know, they're just a little bit loose. It doesn't seem like they can wiggle much, and it may not make a difference. This is just an extra step I do. But I'm up with my other hand pumping them up tight, and then I'm going to tighten them. Now these only need like, I think 18 or 20. It's not a lot. It's just, you snug it up and kind of, that's it. That's all it needs. Snugged up. Do not over tighten these. Okay, so now I think we're done. So let's go over. We tighten this, tighten the pinch bolts, tighten those, spinning freely. My spaces are in correctly. I scrubbed off the tire. I mean, this is very sticky rubber. Love it, love it. We'll check the tire pressures real quick. On street, I run 34, 36, so 34 front, 36 rear. I'll check them now, and then I'll check them in the morning, because you get new tires, sometimes they'll seep a little air as they finish seating properly and all that stuff. All right, 34. We're going to put 36 in the rear. Ugh. There we go, 34 front, 36 rear. That's tight. We didn't need to adjust the chain. Chain slack is right where I want it, just a tiny bit looser than what the manual calls for. All right, so there we are. I'm gonna go put away all my tools and go in the house and cool off. If you don't have one of these stands, it really makes your life easy. I've got the other kind, like that one right there, that goes underneath the fork legs, but I've had them almost slip off before, and it just doesn't, they don't instill me with as much confidence. I've also had bikes where, for whatever reason, this fork leg was longer than the other. There was a nubbin on one, and it made it sit sort of precarious. This suspends it from up there. So if I want to take the wheels off, and let's say we wanted to drop the forks, do some fork work, change the springs, fluid, all you have to do is loosen the pinch bolts here and here, and that fork will just, once the wheel's off, the fork will just drop out. I mean, you gotta take the front fender off, but basically that just falls out, and the bike will just be suspended by that. So this is good for taking off the wheel, as well as the upper triple. So now we can lower this. Carefully remove that so you don't scratch anything. It's a 15 mil, which I believe is the same size for the ZX14, weirdly. And so now I'll go put all my tools and stuff away. But I gotta wipe down the rear rotor. That's it. But everything's good. We're back. We got new tires. Tomorrow I'm gonna go ahead and double check the pressures. And then we're gonna go see how these tires feel, and maybe I'll do a little ride review of how these feel compared to the other ones. The other ones are great tires, so I don't expect like I'm gonna see any kind of massive improvement. I do think the profile is a little bit different. These are very pointy when you look at it that way. But man, they feel grippy. But these tires are gonna be great in the rain. The Metzlers that were on there, in the rain, they were sketchy. They had shallow grooves. They didn't have that many to move the water away. Michelin's got some kind of magic they have with their silica compound. The reason I think these tires are better than the full-on sport bike tires most of the time is that ultimately, if you get them up to temperature and you're running that kind of race or track day pace, the Q3 pluses and the 4s and stuff, they might have somewhat more grip. The difference is when you're riding around town or when it's not that hot out, these grip at a much lower temperature. These start coming into their own at like, I think 135 or 140 degrees instead of like 190 degrees. And so these come up to temperature quicker, but they also grip at a lower temperature. They don't have to get as hot to get sticky. That's the benefit of the sport touring tires like this. Michelin's got some secret sauce. Watch Fortnine. He's got a great channel. He's, I think, an engineer or something, and goes through why these are some of the best tires you could put on a street bike that you still might do an occasional track day on. You get incredible tread life because the center is hard where you need it, but the side grip is just phenomenal. And at speeds, when you just get on your bike and you're just going for a blitz around town, you know, when you're up in the mountains on a hot summer day and you're up there for an hour, yeah, your tires are going to be crazy hot. And so those tires might give you nominally more grip. I don't know that it's, oh my gosh, difference, but you know, maybe it makes a difference. It's at a certain pace. For everything else, those kind of tires, those ones specifically, they're where it's at. Dunlop Road Smart 4s. I'm sure Metzler's got something, but these Michelins are just now, with taxes out the door, $511. So that's the difference. You're getting a phenomenally capable tire that's amazing in the rain, really good up in the mountains. I mean, super, super sticky, very predictable. They last forever, but they do cost an arm and a leg, over $500 a set. That was not including installation. That was just tires and tax. So anyway, we'll do a review of them tomorrow maybe, and we'll talk to you later. But there's another episode of Dave's Garage. That's how easy it is to get your wheels off if you got the right tools.